Welcome, Slice Some Gaming, Slice Some here, and it is time again to rock and roll, do what we do, play some games, have some fun, and unfortunately, have a discussion. It depends on where you stand on things. Maybe you like discussions, maybe you don't. At the end of the day, that's kind of where we're standing. So what's going on? Let's continue where things have been at in the past couple nights. And what we've got. So basically, what's been going on, and something that I've been talking about and really been pushing to a degree here. I say to a degree. Let's be honest. Been pushing is the current MCOC boycott, which has been all over the place. People, commenting up, down, left, right, standing on their head. Some people talking intelligently. Some people talking like Ace Ventura out of their backside. All things are fair game here, and guess what? Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, so good for them for having their own opinion. With that being said, part of what I was looking at doing tonight is having a very, very open discussion. If anybody's got questions, wondering what's going on, why this, why that, how does this affect the average player, what does this mean to players? What can we expect? What are we trying to do? What's the goals, the accomplishment? All that general questions, please feel free to ask. Again, that's the point of having a live stream and bringing people in the chat. And speaking of bringing people in the chat, we're going to be bringing in two of the guys that's kind of helped spearhead this, kind of helped get things going originally, and has been a large part of it as far as spreading word, putting people in places. And, I think if anything, the best thing that I see out of this that I didn't see out of previous things, previous movements, boycotts, whatever you'd like to call them, is there is no one person. There is no, hey, this is the guy that, he's making the ideas, or this guy's got all the answers. It's a collective group of people. It's not just one or two. It's not this alliance or that alliance. It's players from top tier alliances down to whoever, just free to play guy rolling on the great game by himself and not even paying attention to what's going on. The idea is to help all players. That's been something I've always been big about, taking care of players, taking care of the community. And at the same time, look, I'm not dumb. Kabam's got to be a business. They've got to have their part. It's unfair to expect them not to make money. It's not fair for them to. It's not fair for us as a player in a community to not expect them to do the things they need to do to operate and give us the game that we play. If they don't make money, we don't get the game. We don't get the game, then none of this matters anyway. So there's a level. There's a playing field that has to be level here. Again, the biggest things and the things that we're going to be talking about is what is fair. What is fair? What should be fair to the players? What level of communication should the players in the community expect from the developers, Kabam, from things going on? Last night we had a couple CCP members in the chat and even in Discord. Frojo joining me on Discord, and Hector, aka Ace, on the chat, just talking about this. And they mentioned this long roadmap, this Kabam having presentation. They got this long roadmap, but even they can't give us a time frame. Their answer that they've received from Kabam is very simple. It's very simple. It's soon. Now, I hate to point this out, but if anybody else remembers what soon means from Kabam, go back and look at bases. Bases were coming very soon. And then they were coming very soon again, and they were soon again, and soon again. For those of you that don't know, bases never came to the game. It was something that never developed, was never found, and absolutely never came about. So what does that mean for this long-term roadmap, this long roadmap that they've got put together? If it was put together and I thought that this was something that had been done previously and something that they've been working on, then they should be able to give us a time frame. They should be able to share bits and pieces of it and at least give us an idea of what's going on. Unfortunately, we received none of that. Michael B says Bases was used in their Transformers game. It was. Give me 1 second. I've got a line open. I got all sorts of stuff going on. So anyway, it's a very tricky thing what soon is, and a lack of transparency and what's going on inside the game that we're paying to play to some degree. Some of us, and everybody's paying in some form or fashion, whether it's time or money. You are putting something into the game. I'm free to play. This doesn't affect me. Not true. You may be free to play, but you are giving them your time. And that time means something. That's time that can be spent doing something else, or enjoyed somewhere else, or something of that nature. So this does affect everybody, whether you're free to play, or whether you're spending thousands a week, thousands a month, or simply $5 a month on a sigil. You're being affected by the gameplay. You're being affected by the rules at which Kabam operates behind, and that comes into a large part of this. So, starting to gather some people. Excuse me. We are again live on both. What's up, Chance? Good to see you over there on Twitch as well. As I was saying, we're live Twitch and YouTube. Feel free to jump in. Tell as many people as you can about the chat. Have them jump in, discuss. That's what this is about. What's up, Maldar? Good to see you, man. And I'm going to go ahead. By the way, anybody's interested in chatting, all you got to do, let me know. What's up, Madkin? Good to see you over on Twitch. All you got to do is ask. I'll be happy to drop the Discord link. Anybody's welcome to jump in, discuss, ask questions. You can ask about my point of view, anybody else's point of view. Again, we're going to have a couple of the guys that help start putting this together, and has kind of helped to bring all the parties together and say, okay, look, how do we go about this? Here's what we're going to do. Some of them have background in similar things to this, and some of it are just people that are passionate about what they're doing for the game. And there's nothing wrong with any of those. And for some people, they have zero value in this, and guess what? That's good for them too. There's no wrong opinion. There's just differences, and that's okay. So with that being said, give me a second here as we're going to start dragging people in so people can start discussing. And as we grab players, let them come in and discuss what's going on. You can go from there. RJ, hey bud, quick question: Is this boycott boiling down to just NY and Asgard, or does it cover a spectrum of alliances and players? Dude, it's widespread. It's widespread. SGA is taking a part in it. We're not logging out, but we're not spending. And if this continues to go, we will look at a possible log out as well. It's just really going to depend. So currently, yeah, as Maldar says, it's over 60 alliances currently. And to be honest, I'm sure there's more that have turned down their spending. They may not have raised their hand. Maybe they're still unsure of, do I really want to say I'm in this boycott? Maybe not. Maybe they're just worried about how people are still going to say, because there's so many speculations amongst the community. And again, that's the goal of this live stream, is to let people ask those questions. Say, hey, what's going on? Why is people saying that nobody's backing this? It's just a couple alliances. It's just the spenders. It's the whales crying because they got this or that. Fire away. Ask questions. That's what we're here for. And as I said, I'm going to bring a couple guys into the chat. And if anybody else wants to jump in, the mic is open. All I ask is be smart, be respectful, and remember, everybody's right to have an opinion. You don't have to agree with them, but you have to be respectful of people's opinion. And at the end of the day, as long as we can do that as human beings and as players that play in the same community, we're going to be able to go a long way. Whether a boycott successful fails, or whether we agree or disagree, doesn't matter. Working together in one way or another goes a long way. So with that said, I do have Knight and Raven, aka Professor X, as he is in line chat in some places. I'm going to drag those guys down into the live stream. And again, anybody's welcome. If you want to have a chat, feel free, let me know. Tons of information available. And as I said, these guys help kind of spearhead this, start putting things together. It brought a lot of the people together in place. Their connections and their people that they knew comes in handy. So that's good support. A lot of misinformation out there then. Absolutely. Sin 6 Grim Reaper, when did discussions start? How long has planning been happening? I'll let Knight answer that. Knight started this. I think I was fairly early in it. I really don't know. Doesn't really matter. But the discussions and the planning has been going on for a good while. About roughly how long in total? Knight, has everything been piecing together for everybody to know what's going on? Hey, you there? Raymond? Hopefully I...
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know exactly about roughly the timeline of when everything kind of started, discussion-wise, of what was going on?
So yeah, this is Xavier. I don't know if Knight's having some audio issues, but yeah, I mean, we probably started this. I want to say like Thursday or Friday last week, sometime in the middle of the week. Not too long after the Treasury situation, kind of came to a head, and so we got to talking, and um, Knight felt as passionately as I did, really about making a change on behalf of the community. And, we all know that there's been some anger and there's been some frustration and just all out dissatisfaction for something that we all, care very deeply about. And we've invested a lot of time and money into it. And so we said, what do we do about this? And so we kind of looked at, I kind of looked at some of the options. Do we go to the forums and have a, verbal debate with Kabam Mike, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we email support and let them know that we're unhappy and get a automated response, basically helping us in no way that would be positive. What do we do in order to rectify this, right? I mean, I came to this game to enjoy, the comic book franchise, to honor that, to play, the game, very similar to my Street Fighter days, right? We all remember those.
Sure.
Um, and so that's why I came to the game almost pretty much day one, right? And for 5 years now, we've all invested lots of hours, lots of dollars, and we all have different goals and what we expect from this game. And in my opinion, what we've been getting lately has not been really up to snuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as a community, I think we have the power, which is our voice. And, there's nothing wrong with being able to go out and say your piece and have somebody hear you, or find 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 100 people that feel the same way you do. There's nothing wrong with that. And
Right.
when you go to the forums, unfortunately, I feel that when you go to the forums, you don't get that treatment, right? There's a lot of bickering, there's a lot of arguing, posts get shut down, deleted. Um, and like you said the other day, I mean, um, people just go there to bitch, right? I mean, that's really what we're accustomed to. And so, my question to the community is, are we going to last another 5 years in the direction that we're going? Is it going to last, another year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road? Is that going to happen?
Sure.
And the way I'm seeing the morale in the community, Act 6, right? Act 7 beta, Corvus, Treasury, resources, RNG. I mean, the list is very, 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 very long. There's not one or two or three things that we're complaining about. And so, as a community, I asked, what do we do about it, right? And so Knight and I said, look, first thing we got to do is we got to talk about this. So we decided to create a room and get as many heads into that room as possible. And so I know on the surface it might appear that everybody is just bickering and complaining. And yes, there might be some of that, but it's actually a necessary evil, guys, we all got to admit, if we don't talk about this, then how are we going to get our ideas clear and aligned, right?
Sure.
Um, where does it exist, right? And I mean, listen, all the YouTubers, they have different personalities and different people follow them, and you may like their style or their content or stuff like that. But where is there a central place for the community to discuss things that affect them? There is. It just doesn't exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Each alliance has their own line chat. You might go into a recruiting room, maybe, right? But there's no central place to really resonate and bring your concerns and find people to talk to alike. So, we want to grow this room as big as possible. It's just not the boycott. It's essentially the voice of the community. And so that's step number one for us. And I know that there's been a lot of ambiguity with regard to why we're doing this and what's the end result, and um, why our you know our momentum and why the message is not clear. Okay, why don't we give Kabam
So
exactly the 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 points that we want, and why don't we tell them exactly what we want them to do about it? Well, in my opinion, and I'd really like your feedback about this, because I read some of your I seen some of your live streams, and honestly, I think you touched up on this point a lot. I think the reason why 12.0 actually didn't work, and I know that that's not the popular opinion, but I feel the reason why it didn't work is because Kabam just gave us what we want, and then went back to doing what they do in screwing us later in some sort of different way, right? Um, we're talking diminishing returns, right? We're talking Cavalier crystals, right? We're talking about huge prestige differences between, let's say, having Thor Ragnarok as your top champ and now having Surfer or Doom, right? Totally supersede that by several points. And so you got to ask yourself, what is the motivation of the provider? And that's an answer we haven't really gotten, right? We don't know what their plan is.
Here, let me interject, because there's a lot of chat going on inside the chat. So one of the big things that I want to make sure that we do is not miss anything that the general viewer is asking about. So let's real quick. Let me backtrack here. I'm going to pull Knight in again. There you go. What's up, Knight? Good to see you. Welcome to the live stream.
You hear me now? There it is.
Loud and clear, brother. So let's scroll back. One of the things that you mentioned that has been something that people have kind of taken out of context is you mentioned the treasury. Okay, and instantly people on here in the chat's going, well, what about the treasury? Why does that matter? I'm hearing it's because Mercs are upset about the treasury. I hear it's because the top alliances are upset about the treasury. All of this stuff. Yeah. Let me explain. The treasury, folks, has little to do for alliances at the top.
Correct.
Players at the top, they've got gold, they've got resources, typically falling in heaps. If you go and look at a lot of these guys, these alliances that are at the top, that have been accused of cheating, that had donation drops. Let's be honest. Let's all call it what it is. Places that had donation drops because it was more feasible than what Kabam was offering at the time. And sadly, when you're talking about a competitive game, that is something that people are seeing. I don't care what alliance you're in. I don't care where you play. At some point in time, there's somebody doing something in some form or fashion under Kabam's eyes that is not perfectly by their terms of service. And anybody can argue that. I've had millions of arguments over that, and that's not the point here. The point is these players have piles of resources to where they can donate and buy tickets for years and will never run out. And they can buy it with gold. They'll never have to worry about their rank up. They'll never have to worry about anything else. And they'll play Map 7 basically for free. And I say for free because they're already spending on Cavalier Crystals, on all these things that give them the gold they need to play the game. And the gold is really a byproduct. They're not after the gold. I currently, as you can see on my screen, I have 520,000 gold. I have slowed down my spending over the past couple years due to the way Kabam has handled the game. Due to that, my gold reserves has dropped. It takes roughly about, I think it's 700,000 off the top of my head to take a 6-star champion and rank him up. It's massively gold depleting with no major way to gain gold outside of purchasing and duping champions. That's one of the biggest way. When you dupe champs, you get gold, you get ISO. You have ISO and overflow, nothing left to rank up. Guess what? You're silent ISO, you're gaining more gold, and congratulations, the process repeats itself forever and ever. So these guys that are spending money on the game and going after these champions, they've got this gold pile that they don't know what to do with. If they could take and sprinkle it across the universe, they probably would, because they'll never touch that. It's basically an endless fountain of gold because of how they play the game. Does it make it right? Does it make it wrong? No, doesn't make it either one. That's just how they play. That's what they do. That's what they enjoy, and so be it. But the map, the treasuries, doesn't affect the top. But let me explain who the treasury affects the most. The lower tier mix-matched alliances. Those alliances that are running, half map 5, half map 6, or part map 6, part map 7. One BG's running map 7 and one's running map 6 to try and inch up that AQ ladder to get a little bit better rewards. Those guys are the ones getting punished. Those guys have to pay more to play map 7 than their fellow teammates that are playing map 6. Yet the guys playing map 6 are going to benefit from those guys paying for the map 7 tickets. So it's a very tricky thing, and this is something that Kabam didn't think through. And if you go and look, a great guy that can document this down to every little penny and percentage is Cam. Cam is part of the CCP, and he has got this down to the numbers. I mean, it is precise, and you can go and look and see how many players are going to get cheated out of donations. And that's something where people, again, don't understand. I think you guys have probably heard this a lot. It's all about donations. The treasury drop. They're mad about the treasury drops. Mm-hmm. Dude, it's coming out almost identical for people playing at the top. The people getting hosed are the average players.
Right, and that's an excellent point. I think KT1 had said he has enough gold to pay his alliance dues for the next year and a half, right? So he doesn't, and that's based upon him not earning any gold ever again.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of resources, and so that's what I try to explain to people. This boycott is not about the top percentage. Okay, this really is not about them. Yes, there's things on the top that we want to address, but to be honest with you, the question is, what is the position and the morale and what is the situation that's going on in the community right now? That's the issue. And so a lot of people don't understand, like you said, lower players are going to get affected. And so we're taking a stand on behalf of the community because the top, let's say 1 or 2 or 3 or 4% represent also a good part of the economy as well. And so, if we're able to stand in unison for a purpose against Kabam's revenue, then hopefully they'll be able to listen. So this really has nothing. Treasury has nothing to do. I personally like the ticket idea.
I love it.
I think it's wonderful. The only thing I want to bring up to the table is when we get to sit down with Kabam, I want to know if I have a buddy in my alliance that's low on gold, why can I not gift him or buy his admission?
Sure.
For Alliance Quest. I mean,
right now
we have to ask us. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say let's dive into that a little bit deeper. First off, Matt over on Twitch says we are high mid tier and run 665. So the treasury update is stupid for us unless we move to 666, which
That's
10
right.
people don't want to pay for that.
Correct.
And Nemus is saying this is one of the big, huge issues that's being misinterpreted and misled amongst the general community is that people are being told this is over the treasury. Guys, SG1 has been 7x5 since the day map 7's dropped. I will promise you this is a blessing for us.
Correct.
Let me clear this up. So it was a Wednesday night. They had just announced that the Corvus bug, as they like to call it, had went live apparently by mistake. And being a programmer, it's kind of hard to make a mistake like that because it's commenting out certain parts of code. So somebody was playing with it, whatever. Nothing to do with the treasury. Still has nothing to do with the treasury. I mean, we can add that in because, like you guys said, it affects other alliances that run mixed maps. But this whole thing was over the fact they are selling us a champ with a certain ability, and then at any time they feel they can change it. My deal is let's talk about it. 30, 60, 90, maybe even 120 days. What is reasonable? What does the community feel is reasonable amount of time to tune a champ?
Right, and let me touch on here. RJ in the chat is asking, how does the boycott help players on a lower tier alliances? What's expected outcome for them? Well, here let me discuss. This isn't about the Corvus change, Nemus, and that's this is one thing where myself, Knight, and all these guys have talked, and it's tricky how things are worded because people have been conditioned to hear things because certain individuals in the community are basically saying they're upset over their Corvus. They're upset over this. No, that's not it. And let me explain and put that in further detail on what Knight was saying. What we're looking for is clear-cut definitions. How many people out there have ever played a game, whether it's baseball, softball, basketball, any sports game, even a board game, okay? You go buy your brand new board game, you bring it home, you're going to play it with your friends. You pull out the instructions, and there's a clear set of instructions. You can do X, Y, Z as long as A, B, C is in play. Okay, that's fair, all right? What we're wanting is to see Kabam follow some sort of structure, okay? I want something, we want to see something in place that basically states, listen, a bug, let's define, what is a bug? How many times have we seen Kabam come out and say, oh, yeah, that thing that was going on for 2 months, it was a bug. Our bad, we didn't catch it. But great news, no compensation for you guys. You just had to pay extra in potions or cost or units to get through that fight. But don't worry, it was a bug. We're going to take care of it 3 months later now. They announced the bug, and then again, how long does it take them to resolve the bug? Again, we don't really know. They announce it. Sometimes it's weeks, sometimes it's days, sometimes it's months. So the dilemma is what we would like to see is again, some sort of clear-cut path that all players know they're playing underneath the same rules. Whether you're a top-tier alliance, a low-tier alliance, or somebody just trying to come up in the game. If you're investing your time or your money going for a champion, you want to know if there's a bug with this champion, it's going to be found within the first week. A bug is easily seen, it's easily found, and it's brought up by the community very often, and Kabam has an opportunity to be very transparent and say, yes, we see that that's a bug, it's going to get fixed. Why is it not fixed in a timely manner? I promise you, if we all go back and think about our time playing the game, how many times has there been that bug that benefits the community and it was changed the next day? Emergency maintenance, flags up everywhere, let's go, we're going to get this taken care of.
Right.
It's online app real quick. Yeah. And I just saw something come across from Lady Federa. And it's actually a list of stuff against myths and the truths. One of them was top alliances are only doing this to sabotage the lower alliance. And it doesn't make any sense. Upper alliance can't really sabotage the lower alliance. And there's the mercs ruin the game. I got friends that are mercs. I'm honest. I run a sales room. I help mod a lot of sales chats. Hey, you know what the deal is BAM made it where people resorted to these things. And not that I want to put my friends out of business, but at the same time, wouldn't it be better if you could play the game, have fun, you didn't have to pay somebody else to do stuff for you?
Yeah, and again, this is a broadening topic. And if we focus back here real quick, Grim says he's got a question, but Bulldog, Fifth Circle, he makes a good point. This isn't the first time that this has ever happened. Let's look back at Drax. Let's look back at Mordo. These are champions that, had a certain interaction. Drax could parry and go right back into Mordo. And because of the 2-hit medium, he was allowed to bypass the Astral Evade. It worked that way from the beginning. Matter of fact, when I first started playing, it was one of the first videos that I made was him, and it was Archangel. Both of them had that ability to parry and go into an attack and get around Astral Evade. This ended up changing.
Right.
And this is the dilemma that we're having. At what point can that not be changed? And if it is changed, what type of compensation should players expect? I'm not saying... real quick, I was just going to say, I'm not saying that they don't have the right to change things. They do. The idea is to protect the game and make it so that we can continue to play the game for a very, very, very long time. But when they change it, there's got to be something for our time and our investment.
Yeah. So it's interesting you had said that, right? So I was trying to explain this. I was trying to dumb it down for somebody who didn't know MCOC. And it takes me back to a time where the first round or the second round of blade crystals came out, right? We all remember that. And people were afraid of going for those crystals because he was such a god mode champion. People were like, yeah, he's definitely going to get nerfed at some point in time. And so Kabam had to deal with it very, very, very carefully to make sure that the community could still spend on these crystals. So now ask yourself, why would they put out a crystal that they know, is gonna make them a lot of money? And in Blade's specific case, they released it probably 2 to 3 times more than any other crystal they've ever released. Why? Because they'll know he'll make a money, right? Interestingly enough, you'll probably never see a 6-star of that one, right? Just like you'll never see a 5-star of a Scarlet Witch or a Wolverine, right? Because we all know why that is. And so the point is that Kabam is aware of these power indexes for these champs. They're aware of how they interact with the content. We all know what happened in originally in Labyrinth when they had the dull node, right? Specifically just to counter Scarlet Witch. So Scarlet Witch wouldn't go and just dominate the entire content. Right. So they're aware of this, but the reason why they didn't, completely neuter Scarlet Witch, they didn't neuter Blade, okay, up until today. What they had to do is they had to get creative with their content and work around it, right? We remember Mystic Wars, right? And Blade was just running all the Mystics, and we had obviously full Mystic Dispersion. These are all willpower, right? Perfect block, like Katie was mentioning the other night. So all of these things are mechanics that that we were told, hey, look, these are the components you can work with, right? These are your choices. These are your tools. So figure out a way to dominate this content using the tools that I've given you. And so, on Rich the Man's stream the other night, they were like, look, these are the tools you've given us. How is the player supposed to know I can't do this? I can't use a perfect block team, right? Or I can't use, the willpower mastery the way it was, or perfect skill, or mystic dispersion, right? Why are all these things now, game breaking, right? When before we were using them, and there's thousands of hours of video streams showing this is how we utilize the tools, right? And so the one message, before we get too much off topic, I want to come back to the primary mission statement, okay? Because people are asking, why are we doing this? What is the purpose, and what are we trying to accomplish, right? That's the crux of the matter. And the one-line statement is, we want to get Kabam to the table to have some sort of a player council where we can have open dialogue with them on a regular basis. Why we are doing this different than 12.0 is we don't want to just give them a set of demands, they fix those demands, and then they screw us 3, 6, 12 months later. We need to have an open communication with them so that way we can help the community solve these issues, right? Right. And so let me ask you this question. If somebody gets banned for using Quake in the way that Quake is supposed to be used, who takes up that fight, right? Who fights on the player's behalf after they've spent thousands of dollars into contents and champions and stuff like that? Who fights for their right? No one does, right? Because if you take your grievances to the forums, you're probably going to get shut down. And so my point to you is this has been an ongoing problem for 5 years. And based on what Knight and I have discussed, I don't see this game getting another 5 years. And I'm sorry, but that bleeds my soul when I know that there are players trying to work up the ranks, no different than you and I worked the ranks up 3, 4, 5 years ago when this game started, right? Sure. Why did they ban Brutal DLX for using Electro to take down Wolverine, right? But of course because somebody used Quake and there was no hits registered, that person gets banned for cheating. So you have to understand this discrepancy between how they deal with these situations, whether it be Corvus, whether it be new champions being released, whether we're talking about RNG, whether we're talking about new content, Act 7, Act 6, crappy rewards, the arena system that's broken. There's 1,000 things that chat room that we created is talking about, right? There's things that's happening on the side of your live chat screen now that they're talking about. Everybody has questions, and no one is really giving concrete answers. And so with the Players Union, a group of people that's representative of top tier, mid tier, AQ people, AW, free to play, if there's a group of people that go to Kabam on a regular basis and say, hey, we got these 10 issues today, how can we resolve them? And there's open communication, not just a demand list, I think we're going to get much, much further and better content now that they have an open line to the community. That's not the CCP.
Well, and let's.
It's not saying the CCP is bad. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people out there that aren't YouTubers that don't make us feel. And I mean, I'm going to say this as nice as I possibly can. Mouthpiece for Kabam.
Sure.
No, it's. Don't know everything that happens behind the scenes in the CCP because I'm not there. A lot of the time, a lot of these people feel like they're the mouthpiece for Kabam. That's where a lot of the people in the lower tier alliances go to for these people. And they watch them and see how great all this stuff is. And reality is they're struggling. I got 1 million gold. And I mean, I guess you could call me a semi-whale. I mean, I'm an orca. You know, I'm not a blue whale. No, I buy deals. I buy unit packs. I buy stuff like that. I can't keep gold. You know, I've been grinding arenas lately, in 15, 16 million every arena, just trying to build my gold back up. You know, it's taking time away from my family. You know, our game first life, no life where we have fun and our family is taking a hit.
Right.
We have so much time to earn battle chips, gold, whatever, that sometimes we're neglecting our family, we're neglecting our kids. Next thing you know, you got your alliance mad at you because you haven't logged in 4 hours.
But again, the problem with that statement, and I'm not trying to, is that that's a decision. And that's the thing that people have to remember on both sides of this. Everybody that plays the game has a decision to make. How much do you invest? Is it time? Is it money? Don't want to invest the time? You spend money on the game. Don't want to spend money? Invest the time. Jam says, but no one says we have to play so much. I don't think that's a game issue. And again, I don't disagree, and that's points where things get kind of crisscrossed around. Somebody mentioned earlier. Let me scroll back up because I'm trying to keep track of questions as I go through the chat and I watch, and I'm doing a little bit in the background here. But let's see here. What if they do silent nerfs on major champions after all this? Again, silent nerfs. In talking about earlier, I know there was discussion about Blade and how he's played. You know, Kabam's job, if they give us a champion, if they want to build ways around that champion, good for them.
Correct.
That's their job, and it's our job then to find new ways to put a new champion to use or so on and so forth. Let's not get things twisted between game design, proper game design. Let's use that word, proper game design, compared to using the out of bugs, not intended, mistakes, unintentional results from a champion. Those are all things that aren't fair. That's where the community has a real reason to gripe. You can't say that's a bug 2 months later. The biggest one that I can look at here recently is the Sparkles fight in Abyss. They were watching Seaton live. There was tweets going out while Seaton was running that Abyss run live. They watched the fight. They seen it. If you know what you're programming, you know how it's supposed to interact, they would have noticed. I mean, it's It's no different. Whenever I played sports growing up, and I saw somebody that was off on their shot, or they had a, you could point to them and say, look, if you change your footing, if you fix your footwork here, you're going to increase your odds of making your shot, or you can do this and that. They know what's right and wrong, seeing it. They're supposed to be programming the game on a daily basis. So there's no excuse for a bug to be live for that long. Not to mention, Abyss was their baby. This was a thing that was supposed to last forever. People weren't supposed to conquer it in a day. It got conquered in realistically about a half a day, as far as one path goes. Let's say that. Not conquered, but one path done in a day. People were beating it left and right. You can't tell me they didn't go back and look at the metrics and look at what was going on in these fights and saying, okay, how are they beat it? How are they beating it so fast? And they were watching people. They were watching Legacy. They were watching Seaton. They were watching these guys go. It's not like they didn't see multiple takes of the same quote-unquote bug. And at what point does compensation kick in? That's another thing. I'm trying to scroll back here. Somebody asked about, compensation should be a guarantee under certain circumstances.
Correct.
I say that because it's important that we set, like I said, a fair set of rules for players and Kabam. It's not fair for players to ask for compensation for something that they address in a proper time span. We made a mistake.
Right.
It's noticed in X amount of time. We've fixed the mistake. Honest error. We apologize. Let's move forward. That's fair.
Yep.
And the compensation scales based on
time.
Frame.
Yes.
Scaling treasuries, there's scaling store. It's a simple fix right there. That would make a lot of the community happier.
And that, to me, that goes a long way, because I think if the community was going to say one thing in particular, the level of communication is what causes this. And so the problem is people are going, yeah, but this is so everywhere. I mean, not for nothing, fellas. We've been live for going on 45 minutes, and I could tell you, I could take topics and grab them from here, there, and everywhere, because it goes everywhere, because this is a matter of years of issues, of content being changed, and there's no just one clear example. This is not just we're upset over this. It's, do you remember 2 years ago when they did this to Drax? Do you remember when they did this to so-and-so? How is this a bug, and how is this not? I can go back to the day that I got banned. I got banned for 7 days for exploiting the game. The exploit was, if anybody remembers, and this has been many, many moons ago, and Bulldog was live with me when it happened. He was on, at that time we did Skype. He's live with me when this happened, and it happened just like this. We noticed an error. And basically, we went to the forums, we looked it up, and Kabam said the game, we're aware of everything going on, and the game is working as intended. That was their words on the forum concerning so-called error at the time. Okay, well, if this is how you intended this to be, I'm going to put it to use. We put it to use. Did I go crazy? No, not really. I didn't do like some. I know some people that bought Odins and bought refills and just went over it over and over. Grim Reaper, what was the error? This was back in, I don't remember the content, but it was when the monthly event, after you finished whatever the highest difficulty was at the time, Master or whatever, because this was before Uncollected, but when you finished that, your rewards were locked in. So if you went back and redid a path that you had already done, you received those rewards all over again. So essentially, you could replay the last section of that over and over, and just continue to compile 5-star shards, 4-star shards, and 6 stones. And so, again, we brought it up. There was a question on the forum. We went and looked, and everybody said, in the exact quote was, we're aware of everything in the game, and everything is working as intended currently. Okay. I mean, to me, the game is working as we intended. If it's a known error, it's a known deal, and they're saying it works as intended, 3 days later, I got a ban.
Right. And so my point to you is, now if there was a player union that existed at that time, and you were able to say, hey, look, on my live stream, here's this documented, this is what they said, wouldn't it be nice to have a group of people that have the power of the community and the ear of the community to be able to go to Kabam and say, hey, look, we need you to review this situation. Is there any way we can discuss, how we get this overturned? That doesn't exist in the game today.
No, there's very
several
little
players.
voice.
Not to say that would work either, but at least having an ear from just people throughout everything.
Correct.
We're not talking just the upper alliances. Talking, the bronze 1, bronze 2, gold 1, gold 2, gold 3.
Hell, don't even play war. I don't care what you're doing. Everybody should just be able to play underneath the same rules of the game. I mean, that's we discussed like they were discussing a players union. A union of players, a council of players that can talk with Kabam. People mention the CCP. And one of the things that I hear a lot is, well, the CCP, they don't do anything. The problem is, their input comes back to Kabam, and Kabam already has things in motion. They're already pumping out the crystals. They've got things lined up, and a lot of it can't be stopped. So that becomes an interesting point where there's really not much they can do. James says this isn't an employee-employer relationship. Union seems out of place. But indirectly, that's not really the case. I mean, true, we're not exactly their employees. But on the same token, Jam, if I don't spend money with them, they don't have a consumer base.
Weird. This is going to be a little bit... maybe we can clarify that. The video game, technically it's kind of a service. Think about it. We are paying in-game stuff or time or monetary money, right? So, if there is an issue, be able to get support like we would if we were talking to Apple or talking to EM. I find that, yes, they're bigger companies, but maybe not so much the generic response. I mean, how many people right now can inbox me their generic responses from Kabam? I can look. I can tell you 8 out of 10 of them are going to be the exact same word-for-word response.
Sure.
How can we change that? We should be able to change that.
And
just getting them to talk to us is, part of it.
So let's answer a couple of things, Katie. The thing with the council is you're going to need players from all walks. Absolutely. I mean, that's
correct.
This is something I brought up to him, and I said, look, to do this and to do it right, you need players from everywhere.
Correct.
That's so Neem is so not true. And some bottom alliances would never care to join. The instance there is, though, just because they're a bottom alliance doesn't mean that things that people are looking to have out of the game can totally still affect them. I'm trying to think here of how to put it properly. But essentially, just because they don't want to be a part of it doesn't mean that it still doesn't affect them. That they don't benefit from having a set of rules. Nemus says, well, I don't buy really that many crystals. I don't really worry about it, da-da-da. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, some players play the game in a fashion where basically they don't really care what the outcome of the game is. They play it very relaxingly, very, very sparingly. It's just hey, I get on, I do what I'm going to do. It's just whatever. I've got games like that I play that, they could totally tear the game apart. Casually, thank you, Bulldog. They could tear the game apart, and I wouldn't care. because I'm not investing a lot of time, I'm not investing a lot of money, and whatever happens to the game is okay with that. But there are players that do put in large amount of time. There are players that do put in a large amount of money. Some of them do a little bit of both. It doesn't mean that, whether you put in a large amount of time or a large amount of money, a little bit of time or a little bit of money, or none of the above, and you're just a casual player, that having a setting that you're getting a X type of deal for your time and for your money and for whatever it is you're doing is nice. On the same token, if it doesn't matter to you, then guess what? It's not really going to make a difference. If you're a casual player and you don't really care, you're right. This boycott doesn't matter to you, and that's okay. The boycott's not meant to affect everybody from the standpoint that where if you're a casual player and you log in once a week, you may never notice.
That's right.
But for those of us and for those players that are putting in their time and their money, are putting in the effort, that play competitively or just play and say, listen, I just want a game where I know if I get something, that's what I get. Not that it's going to get changed on me months down the road.
That's right. And so having this body of individuals will enable, we're hoping, will enable some open dialogue on specific topics and issues that are important to the community. What topics are those? Well, that's an ever evolving question. Okay, so it's just not point 1, 2, and 3. It's going to be several things, and those questions are going to evolve over time. We might go to Kabam and say, hey, we need to talk about the in-game economy, and that might, come up with a bunch of other different questions that, we never thought to even ask. So we can't really go in there with a static list and then say, okay, well, we want AQ timers to be 30 minutes. Well, there might be some logical reason why it's not 30 minutes for whatever reason. So, we have to have an ability to negotiate with Kabam and understand the provider's point of view, okay? Because we're not going to solve a relationship by just giving them demands, okay? People are asking us for specificity on the specific items that we want to detail. Well, that's an evolving list. And that's the purpose of the chat, for people to get their ideas out, for people to get their grievances out, to have their voice heard. We don't want to silence them and say, well, you're not a top spender, so your opinion doesn't matter. Or you're a free-to-play player, and your opinion doesn't matter. We want everybody to be able to collaborate in some sort of a forum where they're not being censored, okay? Nobody's fighting, nobody's arguing, and nobody's cursing. But everybody can get their points out. And so now when we get the ear of Kabam, how great would it be? We put out a poll, and we say, hey, guys, we negotiated X, Y, and Z with Kabam. What do you guys think about this? And then we get some sort of majority vote, right? That's, again, something that doesn't exist today. People only go to the forums because they want to complain. And so the only other place they can get information right now would either be the CCP or their alliance mates, right? And so that's a problem we're trying to solve. A centralized place for information, a centralized place for communication, a centralized place to air your grievances, and also a council of some sort to be able to negotiate with Kabam in good faith. So again, we go back to the mission statement. All we want to do is to get in front of Kabam and have a conversation. There's nothing more important than that. If somebody wants a single line to detail why we're doing this, that's going to be it. And the Kabam and the actual boycott is not a one-size-fits-all. Okay, so if you decide to say, hey, I'm in free, great, that's in support of the. If you say, hey, I'm not going to stop spending, okay, great, that's in support of the. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Whatever you can do, okay, to disrupt the equilibrium of how Kabam is doing their things today, that's going to be helpful. But ask yourself this question, okay? And a lot of people don't seem to know this, but I took a look at it this afternoon. Normally, Kabam makes about $7-8 million a week. Okay, that's usually their revenue stream. Last Black Friday, they made $70 million. Okay, so now ask yourself, did the size of their development team increase tenfold, right? Did the customer service people increase tenfold? What have we gotten in return for increasing their profits and their revenue stream 10 times? Has the content been that much better in the last year? So, when you ask the community about the morale and how people are feeling about content, everything from CCP people, Brian Grant, you have Seaton, you have Dorkity Diggity Dave, a lot of these people are coming back and saying, yeah, I really don't feel like doing Act 6, okay? It's a complete albatross to complete, right? I got to spend a ton of resources and time on Abyss just to progress. And unfortunately, I don't feel any better satisfied for the massive profits that they're making every single year. So what is Kabam giving back to the actual player? Why has it been 8 or 9 months since we've seen a variant, right? Which is a piece of content that everybody loves. Kabam is unfortunately on the wrong path, right? And who, whether it's single person or multiple people, who is going to help them get back on track, right? And so that's the whole point of this movement. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's about getting together as a community, as much of a unison voice as possible, and saying to them, look, we want to talk. That's it, just very simple. We want to get to the table and have a conversation.
Sure. I'm going to scroll back in the chat here. Jam has mentioned a couple things. Namus has mentioned a couple things. And let's take a look at those. Jam mentions loot box and competitive system built MCOC to have us all play too much, spend too much. The rewards for playing or spending should both be better. Well, and that's, again, you have to realize this is something that people have been building on and talking on for multiple days. One of the things that's been discussed is, more static rewards. One of the biggest things that I go back to is I look at games that I've played in the past and what they do to help me prepare for the next situation. If you go play any other game that has any kind of storyboard, typically your previous storyboard builds your character, your champions, your team, whatever it is for the next chapter. Whatever I gather from this is basically going to help lead me into this next section of the game. Sadly, that is not the case with us right now. Players can spend however much completing the most current content, whether it's a new player coming up, beating Act 5, or somebody looking to push their prestige and jumping into Act 6, knowing that they need certain things. Unfortunately for us, we have zero control over what we're getting. Now, is that bad? No. Kabam's job is to make money. There's got to always be a game of chase. But the game of chase has been created by prestige, by AQ, AW rewards, and other factors inside the game. There should be a static reward at certain points inside the game where we know we're going to receive something that's going to be useful for us. And somebody mentioned it one day, and it's really kind of an easy thing to look at. If you look at Labyrinth of Legends, at that point in time, people needed T4CC. How could you get it? How did you know what you were going to get? There was no selector. There was no random, or not a selector. There was no random crystal. There was no getting your reward, crossing your fingers, hiding your eyes, putting your head in the pillow while you hit the spin button, praying that the crystal that you just spent $300, $400, $500, $1,000 to get gives you the one item you need to advance your team for the next level of play, or to give you the prestige you're looking for so you can continue to grow in AQ, or maybe help improve your defense for AW or an attacker, whatever it is that you're looking for your team. We have zero control of that. But if you go back and look, something like LOL gave us static rewards. We knew what we were getting as far as certain resources. We knew the T4CC. We knew the other aspects of that. And you can even go as far to say we knew a champion we were going to get. We knew we were getting Ultron. So you knew what you were getting by completing this content. One of the things that's been discussed is finding a way to put static rewards through the game to help players advance through the game so that as they reach that point, they can have a say in their destiny. Because the problem is my top champs and who I play well with may not be your top champs, or who you play well with, or who you prefer to play with. So leaving that to chance can leave players with a super bitter taste in their mouth, but more importantly, it leads players to possibly go away. Go away from
That's
the game
right.
and say, screw this, I've spent $600, I'm out. And I've watched players of my own. I oversee about 6 alliances, and I've watched really good guys, really good players, just simply get burnt out on the game because they were unable to get that one lucky pull, that one pull that helped them move forward in the game. No matter what content they conquered, no matter what they were doing, they were never given that ability to move forward. And you look at certain players. I mean, we can look at, Bulldog is another one I'll talk about because me and him's played together for a long time. The first 5-star champion he ever pulled was Star-Lord. He had no way, though, to awaken him for the longest bit of time because he was unable to get a Tech Awakening gem or re-pull him from a 5-star crystal. Now, tell me how that feels as a player to have that champion sitting on your bench watching you try to complete content knowing that there's no guarantee that you can take the top champion in the game at that moment and put him to use because you're not lucky.
I have a possible great solution to that, right? So again, it's ideas like this and stories like that we want to hear and bring to Kabam. So here's my idea for how to solve the RNG debacle, right? So what if we took the Nexus Crystal concept and we applied that across the entire game, right? So that crappy deal that they just gave us, right? What if instead of getting a specific catalyst, right, for the T5CC, what if you were able to choose out of 3, just like you would with the Nexus Crystal, right? Therefore, making the RNG not feel so bad, right? You'd be able to grow your roster. By minimum, you'd be able to dupe champs that you maybe already have, get them to max signature, maybe get some more shards. It would give players at least a little bit control of their destiny. And if they took that approach, and as I understand it, ready for this, Slice'em? It's probably going to take like 15 minutes to a half an hour of programming, maybe.
Sure.
Okay. And so, in theory, if that could be applied, tell me how big would that be for the community? Just that one tiny little change. I mean, we're talking catalyst, featured Grandmaster crystals. You get 3 choices on everything you ever choose. That would be remarkable, right? But somebody has to be able to bring that idea to Kabam because, again, Kabam is not listening to the community.
Totally left my heater on by accident. Sorry about that.
No problem.
You know, somebody said this isn't about RNG, but now we want to fix RNG. I'm not saying that RNG shouldn't be fixed. I'm saying that there's got to be a way that players can feel rewarded, that players have a chance to have a little bit of control. And here, Nima says, what did he say here? We want it so that people can have the same, then you're going to have all the same champions. No, I'm not saying that we should be able to select our champion,
No.
But
just 3 choices.
And not even necessarily, I don't care how they put it out. I mean, look, there's many ways to do it. And this is what we talk about. And this is what people, there's no, look, you can go with a Nexus Crystal. What if we slim down the featured crystal base? I mean, you got 24 champions in a feature crystal right now. How many people have saved up for 5, 6, 7 of these crystals and get nothing but the heap of garbage that's in that crystal?
Right.
There's got to be some point of give. I mean, I'm not saying take away the RNG altogether, but give us a chance to be able to have some sort of set rewards that players can have something where they can choose. And we see it at the end of Act 6. I think your first pass through, there's a 25% T5CC selector. So you get to select what T5CC you want at 25%. To me, that's great. Look, I get to select. I've worked hard. You're giving me a chance to get a quarter of whatever T5CC I want. That helps me build towards my roster. It's not overpowering my roster right away. It just gives me a chance to start building towards something. And it gives me a ray of hope, which in return allows me and wants me to continue to play it.
Right. But there also has to be a progressive balance as well, okay? So myself, Okay, I'm in a top 5 alliance. Okay, my roster is almost a little under 2 million. So ask yourself this question: why is it I'm still getting 375 pots? My R3 is like 31, 32, 33,000 health. What am I still getting? I've been playing the game for 5 years. It's been the same 375 pots since day one, right? So there's a lot wrong with the game, and I'm going to give credit where credit is due. We're here talking about it because there's a lot of things they've done correct, right?
Absolutely.
And we're here talking about it because we love this game. So the point is that if we really didn't care, I would just hang up my hat and go play, the other game with Seaton, the new one that he's working on now. I would just move on, and that would be it.
Sure.
But the point is that I'm invested into this. I've met friends. I've met, maybe even future family members. There's all sorts of resources that I've gained in 5 years. These relationships, and so I'm not really willing to hang that up based on a couple of small minor issues that might be solvable. But Kabam has to open up their ears. Okay, they have to come from behind their desk. They have to extend their hand and say, yes, you know what? I'm willing to work with you. And that's going to be really the first step to really changing this entire toxic environment that we're in right now.
Sure. In here, there's a couple of things here. Nobody makes you buy the crystal. Don't want to feel silly for pulling a 3-star. Don't buy cabs. And again, nobody has to. Again, what we're looking to accomplish is simply find a way that players can feel a little more protected, B,
that's right,
setting it up so that players can look at something for the long term, not just a very simple, well, guess what? We decided to change this game today, and guess what? You're just going to live with it. Giving us some sort of time frame, some sort of things to understand and go from there.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot that we can agree upon, and I think that there's a lot that we can come to some sort of consensus. So it really doesn't have to be pro gamer and then pro Kabam. I mean, there's a happy middle, right, where they can monetize and make money. We're willing to open up our wallets, but we want to feel the return, and that's what's not been happening.
And I think people will spend more. People will spend more if they feel they have hope on going into the next thing, or they pull that great champion knowing, hey, if I can just get to this reward, I can rank that character up. If I know I can get there, then this is going to help me move in. So that makes a difference. Somebody says, and I missed it. You got all the great ideas. Go just become developers. Look, I'll be honest. If we had everything perfect, I wouldn't even be discussing. We just make a new game and move on. At the end of the day, there is no set answers, and that's one of the things that people are talking about. Well, what's the answer to it? Man, I wish I had all the answers. If I did, man, I'd be rich. I'd sell them to every video game company out there, and they would be calling me, and I wouldn't have to go to work every day. I could just sit down and tell them how to make every game perfect, and I would be a billionaire. The fact is, I don't have the answers. That's the reason there's a conversation wanting to be had. Kabam, here's the issue we have, okay? We understand you got to make money as a business, so how can we find a way to find a middle ground? Is there a way that the players can feel protected, that you're not going to turn around and declare this a bug after we have the champion for 3 months? Is there going to be anything to protect us from the standpoint of changing the way a champion interacts with the game in 6 months? Maybe scaling the difficulty. There's things such as, when a content drops, offer a set deal for so long, run your rewards there. After a set amount of time, look at retooling it. Well, Travis T, that's not entirely true, because last time I checked, you're in this chat where we're looking to have open dialogue with everybody. That's the idea of things like this. The idea is for people to come into these chats, address things. Hey, I don't like that I've seen XYZ, or how as a player do I overcome something like this? How do I worry about the fact that I'm out of gold and I can't rank the champions I need to get? or hey, I pulled 3 new champs, but all of a sudden, my gold issue's too tight. There's all sorts of things that come into this. There is no one singular issue. There is no one singular answer. But instead, like we've been saying all along, is trying to find a way to have a set of rules that they understand, that they say, okay, we won't do this to the players. We're not going to change a champion after this. If there's a bug, we're going to have it fixed in X amount of time. If after that point in time and it's affecting the gameplay of players, we're going to work on a way to compensate those players for having to play in a game that had an obvious bug. Why have open dialogue with everyone top alliance know the issues that affect everyone? Well, the thing about it is things are different from a top tier alliance to a medium tier alliance. So, for example, I have SGA 1, SGA 2, SGA 4, SGA 6, and then a relaxed alliance currently. I can tell you this. The way my players in SGA 4 handle the game and how they perceive the game and how they go about things is totally different than the players in SGA 1. How we attack AW, how we approach AQ, how we approach donations, how we approach rank ups. When you start looking at things like that, it's totally, totally different. They rank somebody up just because they like the way they look. Or, dude, that's my favorite champion since I was a kid. I'm ranking him up. So those things are different. They see things differently, and then they don't understand why certain things affect them. There's got to be ways to bring that together, and it's tough. There is no one simple solution. So that's where it's one of those things where we can help out. We can at least look at it and say, listen, you can rank a champion up without having to worry about the champion getting changed after X amount of time. With regards to changes to old champs, Katie had the best line in her video the other day. I'm sorry, but you can't do that, Kabam. You sleep in it. Well, and exactly, they made these champions, and that's fine. And I'm trying to read. I agree. There's a little bit of a understanding how to put a champion rework into place that would be proper amongst the community while still rewarding the players that spent the time or the money to get that champion. What if they say screw toy? Here's a new 12.0. Oh, screw you. And you know what? 12.0 wasn't terrible for the game. I mean, if you go back and look, I think most players would agree 12.0 was needed for the game at that point in time. And I go back to things like World of Warcraft, who basically had a huge reset following one of their expansions. I think Cataclysm is where it started, or right after that. But essentially, they basically reset. Mel, give me 1 second here. Basically, they did a full reset of the game. And they took basically everybody back to the beginning and said, okay, we're resetting everything. We're going to give them, items that don't have near the stat lines. Everything's changing. Here you go. And it was kind of a soft reset. Sometimes games need that soft reset. Champions that have become overly done, over things like that. And that's okay. As long as the rework is done fairly, properly, and compensation is given to the player base based on the amount of time and effort that they've put into those champions or playing the game at that way, I don't have a problem with that. Let's get another rework if that's what it takes.
Yeah, I agree now. Katie had mentioned something about the council, and I think that's a great point, actually. We're looking to have some representation really on a bunch of different levels, high, mid, and low tier war. Same for AQ, some free-to-play players, maybe a couple of whales, so that everybody at least gets a piece of representation, because things that are important to the whale may not necessarily be important to the free to play, right? And so we want to make sure that we have a balanced voice, and there's some sort of camaraderie amongst the members, just to make sure that when we're presenting things to Kabam, we're seeing it from all sides.
Somebody mentioned the original 12.0, Katie, the original 12.0, and I agree, the original 12.0 was a complete cluster, total. But the final product, after everything came together and everything worked out, I think it was great for the game. The original setup was rough, and they learned a lot from that. So, Q8, question about Treasury ticket system. How do they fix it if one member couldn't buy a ticket in middle AQ? Unfortunately, currently, the Alliance gets screwed. You know, unfortunately, currently, that the Alliance is just going to get screwed. There's, as far as we see, no way to buy and teammate a ticket or help cover those tickets. You know, previously, if you wanted to throw in extra gold for your buddy, you could. But now, that seems to be a thing of the past. Everybody is on their own. Don't have it. Looks like you're going to have to drop, $30 in the game, or buy a $5, $10 pack, whatever it is, and use the units to get your tickets.
Yeah, one thing that was mentioned is the support tickets have actually gotten better over the years. That's something I can agree with. It's not quite where it's supposed to be, but it is definitely much better than it was. But it still, I think, has a lot further to go.
And Afara kind of really nailed this, you know. It's all representation. Jojo, if you're not in the top 100, then no, you wouldn't want a top 100 alliance necessarily representing you. Maybe you want somebody that's in that, 150 to 300 range, something like that.
It needs to be spread out.
Yeah, I mean, and we need people from all of their all things. And Lori Reed, we don't need a ruling council. MCOC politicians is all it would end up being. No small group can ever properly represent the whole. No, at the end of the day, what we want to do is have a group, and if it takes however many, we just got to figure out the way it is. But we got to find a way that people can be represented and have a chance to have a voice if something crazy happens.
Keep bringing this up that this is a union, and we're not getting paid.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not life or death, food on the table, housing, or anything like that. What we're talking about is an open dialogue that's expanded outside the people that test the game content for them, ahead of time. And so there was a question from Coat Hanger, from, one of those good alliances. Says, who's the person with the experience in mobile gaming programming? So what they teach you in school is basic Java, then they go into Python, C#, C++. They program robots for a living. So Adept Code uses Python, and I also use C# when combating it with TLC programs. So when it comes down to actually programming, yes, I do have a programmer level, and I understand how it's written. I can see how fast things can get fixed when they want to fix them. Some of the stuff that was on that list wasn't out for very long. They just released fixes for. They were fixed like that. It says something.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to a level of expectation, right? And so, if something is clarified as a bug, and what is decided upon by the provider and the community is, let's say, 2 days, and that's sufficient and that's acceptable to both parties, then we expect it to be done in 2 days, right? Now, are we going to call them up necessarily in the 49th hour and say, hey, you guys were supposed to fix it in exactly 2 days? Probably not. But again, if that same bug is now a week or two later, then what Kabam has to understand is that we are the power of the community. And so the community is behind us because we represent the community. So there is a little bit of checks and balances because, again, they don't want to get to where we are today, right? They don't want to get to the fact that we're talking about, hey, stop spending in the game. Hey, don't buy these deals. They don't want to get to that point. Okay, again, 7-8 million a week that they make. So, again, if there's interruption in their revenue streams at a time that's less than ideal, that's going to mess up with their plans. And so the whole point of organizing this is to have, some sort of a collaborative effort where everybody can speak, and everybody can put their input in, and we can try to get things done. That's what it's really about. It's about getting things done. I play the game. Knight plays the game. Most of you guys in chat play the game. We all want to experience this. So it's not something that we can't quantify immediately. Once we start getting working relationship with Kabam and they start putting some things into play, that would actually be immediately quantifiable. I would love to see champs reworked once or twice a month, right? Some of the old stuff that's in our rosters, I would like to see them reworked once or twice a month in addition to getting a new champ. So there's a lot of things that we could talk about, and it's going to take time to build that relationship, and it's not going to happen overnight. But I just don't want the game to go south. I want it to start at least going in the right direction.
Sorry, I was responding to a couple different things coming in. And again, there's some complaints that some people are going to be putting up into the chat that's just simply there to run people in circles. I love Nemus. Nemus has been a long time supporter of my channel. Has been here for a long time. What he says about me anywhere else is up to him, but he's been around a long time. I mean, the SG logo is right there on his name. If he wants to change it later, that's fine. But ultimately, some people have legit concerns. Some people are going to simply look to spin people in circles. If there's a legit concern, I am happy. I'll be happy to see real complaints, real thought process, and things of that nature. Coat Hanger says, Slice, we're familiar with the EBB and flow of Kabam in the top 50. You'll see they spike around the time of new champion releases. I guess we'll see here shortly. But to be fair, I think what Red Guardian just dropped, correct? I mean, I don't, I haven't really looked. Is this Crystals out currently?
Yeah, I think so.
We just had Black Widow drop.
Was it Black Widow?
Yeah, Black Widow just dropped. We just went through their arena. And her crystals just came through. We also just had Doom crystals come back through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so right now you've got 5-star. Well, you've got the Red Guardian crystals, who a lot of people are thinking are looking to be a great champion for Abyss, possibly for certain fights, and I'd say it's still minimal. I mean, it should have definitely seen a peak. So by that point, I would say again we're looking at a much lower amount coming in than what they would normally see during this time span.
15 days, because typically the way that these companies are paid is on a net 30, net 60, or net 90, and it's all based on what type of revenue they produce. So companies like Intel, Micron, Global Foundries, just semiconductor, typically they're a net 90. So they don't pay companies 90 days. It's all because of the structure of the payment. So, there's I see some comments here in the YouTube from Deer, and I want to say, I kind of hit on something a little bit earlier when it comes to the organization. Avian and I talk several times a day, message each other several times a day. We have, items lined out. We have lists. I talk to Maladar several times a day. And, so we do have lists of stuff that we would like to see that people have given us, that we have been we've come up on our own or things like that. But I just don't want to drop that out. Bam takes a few things, and everybody gets happy with it, and then all of a sudden it's done, and then 3 years from now, back here doing the same thing again. God forbid, I'll say this right now. I would love to be still playing this game 3 years from now, because count how many games you've played over your entire life. How many of them can you put on your hand that you have played for this long?
All right.
What's up, Rono? No, I agree with that. There's
not doing a bad job.
Mm-mm.
It could be better. You were a WoW player, right, Sly?
I was for a long time.
WoW actually took a lot of information from their players when it came to doing raids and structure of gameplay and how they interacted with the community. How would you compare that to Kabam right now?
Well, and see, this is super tough, okay? Because the biggest thing that you see between WoW and this game, and this is where people people fail to correspond here, is WoW, there was no pay to get ahead. There wasn't, I can go buy this gear. I can't go buy that. I mean, there was, there was to some degree. You could go out and buy or pay people to run you through a raid and pay for certain items, and that really came more towards the end. But at the end of the day, there wasn't a champion, a certain person you had to have to compete to combat certain properties. We played 25-man raids for the longest of times. So that's 25 people working together at the same time, making the same moves to complete a singular goal. And, this was something that, my team, we didn't have we didn't have to go on anywhere. We weren't having to buy the champion. We weren't having to buy a piece of gear. We weren't having to do all these crazy things just to hopefully make something happen. And give me 1 second while I just fix something. But the biggest thing is with WoW, basically they designed things where, as I mentioned earlier, as you completed the content, the rewards you received directly impacted your team. They impacted a team member, yourself. It was instant upgrades. It was something that we could put together and use that to, in return, continue to propel our group. And it made the fights easier, never more difficult. Things became easier. Every week we went from clearing, 5 bosses to 6 bosses, or maybe we went from clearing it in through our 3-hour session to clearing it in 2, and everybody had an hour to go do what you wanted to do. We ran a pretty strict schedule. We played Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and we ran 3 hours. So we knew what we were doing, we knew the time we were investing, and we knew what we got back out of it. And I agree, Lori Reed. It's really tough to compare computer games, and that's what I was saying. It's tough to compare WoW to MCOC because there is that game of chase inside MCOC, where with WoW was totally different. So that's tough. It's tough when you start to comparing things like that. But what I did, and the one thing that I can really kind of piece together from that, Code Hanger says, "Wow, tell us about Call of Duty next." Look, here's what I can tell you, and this is my point behind this, I guess, is I knew what I was getting when I paid for my monthly subscription. I knew what I was paying coming up for the next set. I knew my invested time would lead to X. With Kabam, you don't know what's going to happen. We never know what's going on. Inside WoW, we knew what the next patch was bringing. We knew what was coming down the pipeline. There was obvious heads up on, hey, this is where the game's going. There was always those things. And so that's the side of it that, again, just a set of rules that everybody knows and understands what's going to happen would be nice. months behind pizza. Come on, man. So, I mean, I don't know that doesn't really answer the question. I know, but I mean, that's just tough to really kind of to correlate the two because it's two totally different styles of gaming, two different styles of play. But I think that's what players are looking for is that foundation to know, hey, we've always got this rule book that we can fall back on, that is there to help protect the players, that they're not going to change it over. I see it, Afaro.
That you just hit it right there.
And here, since we were discussing this, let me see if I can get this pulled up. Somebody was talking about if the logout is making a difference, if things are changing. Give me 1 second here. Oops. Yeah, that's what I want. And so this is something that was just shared with me a little bit ago. I'm just going to throw it up right here in the middle of the screen. Oops. Stupid mouse. Come on. Thank you. And we can scroll. We can make that a little bit bigger still, since people like to see things. This is on Android. This is Galaxy Gamers. This is MCOC data over the past 7 days. They were, but if you go back and you look over the past 7 days, you've also seen a huge drop comparatively.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I think we've also heard a lot in the CP community. They're kind of discouraged with the content and the, just the morale in the community as a whole. People are just not happy across the board. And so, open talks with Kabam about their plans. I know the whole COVID situation has obviously, messed up their schedule, and they're trying to release champs in line with the movies, and they've, put in a lot of productive time to get those champs ready, and now they can't release them because they're not in line with the movies. So yeah, I mean, I get that difficulty, and as a business owner myself, I can, get where they're coming from a monetary perspective, I think same for you, right? So we understand kind of what that chair feels like when you have to make tough financial decisions. And so, there's going to be elements in this union that's going to be beneficial to Kabam. It's going to be, that ability to get, inside information from the community. Because again, if we have this chat room of, 500 or 1,000 people, or whatever it is, we'd be able to get some sort of a temperature for what people are thinking. And that's going to be much better than they could do, obviously, on the forums. So, there's really a value to this. Not everything, again, is perfect, like Knight had said, but it's something that's constantly evolving. But step number one is to obviously get Kabam to the table, to just start talking about, how we could proceed in this relationship. And then at that point, we can elaborate to the community, some of our greater plans.
Right. People talking, Grim says, Sliceman has all seen this video today, and I noticed people are concentrating on what he said about the failure of the boycott, but why did everyone miss all the criticism he hurled at Kabam? Again, people are conditioned to hear what they want to hear. Whatever that is, that's up to them. Some people are being told, this is never going to happen. We'll just wait until here or there. This isn't going to change this, that, and the other. And that's, again, everybody's allowed to have their opinion. Again, the reason for all this is simply to try and inform people of, hey, here's kind of what's going on. Here's the questions. Feel free to ask. People are looking to answer. And my goal is to continue with this. Anybody that's willing to be a part and wants to ask questions and get on and have conversation, I'm okay with that. If you just want to try and run things in circle, I don't mind answering a question, but if you're just going to spin it, I mean, at the end of the day, that's up to you. If you don't have a decision, if you don't want to understand, I can't make you. And I'm never going to try to force myself on anything like that. People have to want. to understand. People have to want to have a desire to look at it and go objectively and go, okay, I can see the points. I can understand. Yeah, there's definitely a reason for this, that, or the other. So when things like that happen, let's see what happens. And Michael B, that's a situation that may really come up. Jay Hendry says, "Key selector in the inventory, brilliant idea." I would agree. Let's see. What else is there? Let me scroll back up. Somebody asked another question.
There's a lot of stuff we can touch base on real quick. I mean, what can we do? We can adjust PIs, just different fights, we can lower the cost of energy. We can buff up rewards. We can add rewards. Somebody does Realm of Legends over and over again. Maybe they get 100,000 gold for taking their time and using that energy. There's little ways that they can people to spend money and buy energy refills. The 30 units that adds up when people need gold.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can change the refresh rate, refresh timers. How about having the availability to buy refresh tickets? They gave us that one time. You remember that one time in arenas where we could refresh champs with so many tickets?
Yep.
Why can't we purchase those? Why can't we get those in arena?
Yeah.
Help with our refresh. Let's expand the pool from 150 to 200. 5 stars are so much more available. I even stop at 200. Why don't we just go to 250? You can go top 250, and you can expand the rewards of just a hair. It doesn't cost them a whole lot to expand the rewards enough to allow player base that is on the lower tier to gain momentum. You gotta remember, a lot of us have been playing this game for 5 years. So to get to where we're at after 5 years, it's taken a lot of work and a lot of effort. So to progress them, be just a little bit faster, maybe they might be enticed to spend a little bit more. Again, we don't want Kabam to go out of business. We want to play. We want to keep it going. At the same rate, everybody knows, look, I sell accounts. It's not a big secret. Let me tell you, selling of the accounts actually entices somebody to spend a little bit more than they would starting out at no level at all. They are actually helping Kabam a little bit. Person that buys a mid-tier account more likely buy 6 stone deals, other crystals, move it up.
Why? Versus the person quitting altogether.
And again, I think that the boycott really has nothing to do with that side of it. At the end of the day, again, what we want is a stable game. This comes down to finding a way to create a stable scenario in which games can play consistently, knowing that if there's a change to the game, there is some sort of agreement, some sort of deal, knowing what's going to happen. If we rework the game today and your top champions are reworked and it's a situation where they're no longer viable, then there should be something. If that champion loses, and I can go back to examples such as the 14 champions that had their heavies reworked. That's when they rework champions, There's got to be some level of compensation for those that have invested time and money in those things.
Well, think about it like let's think about it like She-Hulk. Okay, so you take a champ, you rework her. Now she's god tier. Everybody's ranking her up, and then all of a sudden you roll back. I mean, I don't understand what we're doing. Why is that the case?
So, you know, I think. Hold on 1 second. I was reading and I was typing here. Somebody says it sounds like you guys want to win. Again, let's look at it from the big scope of things. There are many things that the player base in general. And when I say player base, I'm in a ton of rooms. Ton of rooms. If you go into to a lot of the rooms, and most players are in many rooms. And again, Nader, I agree, but let's go back on this and let's just take a quick look. If you were to go into rooms all the time, you see somebody complaining about some aspect of the game. It's nonstop. Whether it's gold, resources, whether it's the terrible, we can call it RNG or whatever, no static rewards. You know, there's all these things that players have talked about and complained about. You know, the level of difficulty scale coming from Act 6, what was shown in beta on Act 7. But at some point, the players as a whole have had a large chunk of issues with the game. I think what people are trying to really make sure that people understand is we just want to see it be regulated. A set of rules, a set of regulations that all players know what they're getting into. If I beat X, I'm going to have this set of options. Or, you know, at certain points. It doesn't have to be always. There's still got to be some RNG. I don't want Kabam to get where they can't make money. If they can't make money, we don't have a game.
That's right.
You know, but there's a way to take care of the player base and the community. And at the end of the day, that's what we're wanting to see more than anything. Or at least that's my biggest goal. You know, I can't tell you every individual's goal out of this. Because, again, it's a situation where people have multiple issues about the game. They have multiple issues about how things are conveyed, how it's expressed to the general group and to the general public, and eventually there becomes a point where, you know, where eventually it no longer is rewarding, where things become very stagnant, where players are put up to the spot where it's just kind of like, this sucks. They lose hope, or there's no longer a sense of accomplishment, or hey, I paid to get that champion. I worked hard to get him. I worked hard to rank him up, and now you're changing the way he interacts with the content. That's very deflating. And if there's not some way for people to get some of that back, then that becomes a problem. You know, people want to be able to get something for their time and investment. You know, that's to me is the biggest thing, making it so that people can still have a way to protect themselves. That's why I say I love every crystal to be Nexus. Still RNG, but it gives us the tiniest bit of control. Sure.
I brought that up earlier. People were asking me, they're like, I want your list. I want your list. I want your list. I gave them a little taste. We start making Arenal Crystal instead of, you know, just regular 5-star shards, Nexus shards. Wow.
Sure.
Oh, how hard is that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not that hard. I was talking about this 6 or 7 hours ago. I have lists. The point is unless they actually want to talk to us and help make their game better, there's no point in giving them a list.
Right.
Give them 1, 2 little things. They might give it to you, they might not. It doesn't really matter. It's their game. Yes, I said it. It is their game. Yes, they have a terms of service. Guess what? They don't even follow their terms of service half the time. So let's quit talking about terms of service.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end of the day, you know, we've got a lot of things. Players want to find a way to make things make sense. You know, I think Kabam has the worst service ever. You know, I've seen some pretty bad customer service. At the end of the day, I think the biggest thing that we want to see here is a way for players to have a chance. Sly look again, like what Seaton said, he spends less money now and makes less MCOC content. He says they have made the community argue within itself, and he says Kabam is going down in rankings. Well, yeah, sure. And at the end of the day, you know, it's tough. Everybody is going to have their own way of saying things. You know, I found it funny Seaton wasn't in on the boycott, but yet he was in and throwing Kabam underneath the bus on Act 7 and the burnout and things of that nature. It is what it is. The terms of service are the rules players agree to in order to create an even playing field. Well, I don't know that it's really considered an even playing field if the developer is capable of declaring whatever they want at any given time. That kind of makes it a little bit of an uneven playing field. Again, it's kind of like playing kickball with your friends, and you know they get mad because you know you're picking on the guy in right field that can't catch, and they, you know what, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. He can't kick to right field all of a sudden. Well, wait a minute, you decide to let the guy play. You put that in the game, you know. It just becomes a point where there's got to be a level of playing field of, hey, this is what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna run. This is how it's gonna play out. You know, some clearly defined definitions help. They help players know what they're getting into. A bug, you know, why is it so hard to say? A bug is exactly this. A bug is something that's found within the game within 48 hours and is going to be resolved in a week. No, I don't think it is. I don't think the boycott. I mean, at the end of the day, because we're not spending, you know, currently we haven't done anything other than not spend. I mean, that's no different than going to my favorite store that I want to buy stuff from. They keep messing my order up. I don't have to give them my money. Who's not spending? Currently, there's a list of a little over 60 alliances not spending, and a lot of individuals. Can I give you an exact list? Alliances? Sure. Can I tell you that everybody in there is not spending? No, but I can tell you that this is the group of people trying to get behind it and trying to help push things on.
And I mean, honestly, that's probably the best message. Like, you know, it's not going to be one size fits all. You can support the movement in a variety of different ways. Obviously, if you don't spend, that's helpful. If you go and you leave, you know, feedback with Google and Apple, you know, that obviously helps. The whole point is really to get Kabam's attention. There's no one size fits all, and so, you know, 12.0 is not something that we're going to repeat. People have different levels of attention. They have different goals, different things that they do. And so, you know, we want to make sure the boycott is as flexible as possible. But really the point is to get Kabam's attention. And the fact that we're here talking about it and every other YouTuber has already spoken about it. And, you know, there's almost 200 people in the chat all looking for the same thing. You know what? I think we have potentially gotten their attention. So, you know, we just want to keep the message strong. All we want to do is come to the table and talk. Everything else is now secondary. First things first, we have to get to the table first, and we have to get them to agree to have a conversation.
And you know, I don't care if it's a conversation, however they want to do it, whatever they want to call it. We just want to be able to, excuse me, we want them to be able to look at the concerns that the community has as a whole. You know, Nevis keeps going back to, well, this is for everyone, but it's not. It's for everyone. We want the entire community to be able to express what it is that they find wrong inside the game or issues that they have, something that's been going on, whether it's resources, rank up material, whether it's, terrible RNG, whether it's finding a way to have some sort of static rewards so you can continue moving up the chain inside the game. The idea is to create, something that the entire gaming community can build around and say, okay, we now know these are the rules we're playing under. Coat Hanger here says they called the timeouts a bug because they knew if they called it what it was, people would lose it, an exploit. So is it an exploit if the game has been designed that way? Now, if it was an exploit, why didn't they resolve this 2 years ago? You can even go back further before Corvus. Deadpool, we talked about this last night with a CCP member, Frojo. When SG1 first formed, we were running map 6, and Frojo took whatever lane he wanted. He took in 4-star Deadpool, and he regen through the entire thing. That's not an exploit. That's the player using the character given into him with the signature ability and with the abilities of the character to play the game. We didn't ask them to put...
But let me ask you this. Let's really break this down, okay? Is it really an exploit? Or is it more of an excuse to say, we're not making enough money off of this situation, and so we need to correct it? Let's go back to perfect block teams, right? It wasn't the player community that put that function in. It wasn't the player community that put these champions together, right? It wasn't the player community. We're going to have these characters interact in a certain way, and it's going to create this particular synergy. None of that was decided by the community. Right? We're just working with the tools that we were handed. So when somebody decides to go in and, on the servers, it doesn't have a hit register of a Quake user using Quake to take down a node, that's not the fault of the community. That's the fault of the provider, because they gave us the rules for which to work. We're using that system, and I'm sorry it's not working out the way that maybe you wanted it to, but it's nothing that the community did on their own. Now, it's a whole nother story if you're modding and you're having the defender stay there and just take hits, right? That's obviously wrong, right? That shouldn't be allowed. But again, if somebody is using Quake in the correct way, or using perfect block team in the correct way, or you use OG Thor, right, to give 3 armor breaks and then an L3, is that really an exploit? I mean, can we really call it a bug, or is it more of a strategy? Because last time I checked, synergies and signature abilities, all of these things are things that we were handed as our choices to work with.
Backdraft intercepting. You're putting somebody up against the wall, and come back in. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're going to hit the backdraft every single time. How is that not exploit?
And again, there's simple things that we see inside the game. And welcome, El. You're going to have to turn the stream off to make sure you don't pick up backlog, just so you know. Real quick, I want to go back and read. Lori Reed says, I despise the term exploit as long as you aren't changing the coding of the game, aka modding. You should not get in trouble for doing anything that you are able to do. Their mistake, not ours.
Right. That's right.
And that's exactly what was just said, basically. At the end of the day, basically, if you're given the tools, that's us, basically they gave us those tools. Here's your timer. Here's a pause button. Here's these things that they've been given. Your job is to beat the content. That's the name of the game. Here's the content. How do you beat it? We didn't ask for timers on these fights. They put the timer in. At the end of the day, you go look at some of the new fights, the new mini boss fights inside map 7, and I say mini boss, the little mini minis, I guess I should say, they're 15-minute timers. Who wants to sit and wait for 15 minutes? I can promise, a lot less people are Corvus timing out on a 15-minute timer because it's no longer viable. It's just, again, players using what Kabam gave us and putting that to use. That's on them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Semantics, exploit is using mechanics in a way that wasn't intended. Saying it doesn't exploit it suggests Kabam intended people. Again, that's on them. And I would agree with you, Grim. I think the community accepts it whenever they say, "Hey, we made a mistake," a lot better than when they say, well, that's a bug, or that wording was incorrect, or something along those lines." You know, and again, that's open dialogue. Being able to say, "Here you go." No, I agree. An exploit isn't black or white. There's gray areas. I don't disagree, but you can't get mad at players for doing what Kabam has allowed. That's the tough spot. You know, I mean, if they don't like the interaction, then that's on them to change it, change how it wants to be interacted. If you don't like the timer being used against you, change the timer.
Hey guys, I'm pretty new here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
There was a question. Don't you at least want to give them a chance to address AQ, see what they do to make it so players don't have to time out? Because that's what they said they're going to do. Yeah, we do. They've also said that there's not a time frame. It could take them a year from now. We don't know.
Yeah.
How quick are they going to fix it?
And again, that's, been one of the things ongoing. Communication. I think if we look at it, one of the biggest issues that we find is communication.
Yeah. That's again going back to the mission statement. You know, the bottom line is we need to be able to have.
I want to answer Coat Hanger because I know for the most part I don't want to say being combative, but against what a lot of the things have been said. So let me go a little further here. Coat Hanger says, yeah, it's on them to correct it. They should and will. But what seems to be suggested here is they should allow these interactions to persist. I have never said that they should be allowed to persist. What I'm saying is, if they decide to change the interaction of how a champion interacts with the game, there should be some sort of compensation for the players that have went after that champion, ranked them up, and spent resources on that champion. If you're changing how characters interact with a crucial part of the game, players should have some sort of way of either having a choice of compensation, such as they did with the optional rank down tickets with Cull and Namor, where we could sell them back. And there should be more, because again, people are getting these champions, they're spending their time or their money. Those players, we're not asking for them to mail us refund checks. I'm not asking for them to mail me a check for my 3 days I took off from work to grind the arena. I'm not asking for any of that. I'm just asking for some sort of compensation package that makes sense based on the amount of time and effort that people have put into the game, or money put into the game to receive that champion, to purposely counter something Kabam has designed. If they rework it, that is on them. They're more than welcome to rework it. It's their game. But they need to make it fair back to the players that have put that time, money, and energy in the game to get that back. Oh, I want Corvus so I can time out an AQ, because that's how he currently interacts. Coat Hanger, I currently use Phoenix. I don't have Corvus, so for me it's Phoenix. Phoenix does a great job. I can play with Phoenix all day long just to go in and get it. I can continue to time out with her. I can do whatever I want. There's multiple champs I can do this with. And I can take them to almost any level of AQ and get it done. Phoenix, Blade, Omega Red, Corvus, Doc Voodoo is another one that's great. There's many of these champions that are great for that scenario. Corvus just has a super high damage output on top of it, therefore I can do a lot of damage, take care of fights that need to be taken care of, and still have the ability to time out if needed. Iron Man, superior Iron Man, good call. But My point is if they change how it interacts with AQ or something of that nature, then it changes that. Does that mean I want to rank down my Phoenix? No, I actually like her. I play her. She's great in map 7. I can use her to combat multiple paths. I can use her to take on Disc Track, Incinerate, buffed up. She can take on Caustic Temper currently in the current setup. She can take on a ton of different nodes that are unique.
With 5 charges.
What's that? So, I mean, at the end of the day, I just want that ability to decide, is this something that I want? As they did with Cole and Namor, I thought was very fair. They gave the players a chance to sell the champion. They got a chance to get their resources back. But at the same time, there should be something a little bit more there to even out the amount of time that people put into the game. Cole was sold as a high damage champ. He's still a high damage champ, but was he what he was originally put out at? No. There should be some sort of compensation for changing that champion after people spent money and time to get him. That's as far as champions go and things like that, they want to rework it. Hey, their game. But at the end of the day, I think that there should be a way for it to be fair to the players when they do make these reworks.
Slice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if I'm okay now with my
You're good.
audio.
Yes, perfect.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. First and foremost, I really appreciate the invite, and Knight and Xavier, I really appreciate your guys' time and taking the time to do this. A little bit about me real quick. I'm the ISO 8B leader right now. That over recently. Never wanted to do it, but kind of happened that way, and anybody watches some YouTube videos, you'll see exactly how and why it all happened, but it happened. And I love my guys, man. Like, I really enjoy the aspect of the Alliance and the chats and the things that we talk about and joke about and all of that stuff that this game has brought to us. I have a sports background. I was a football coach and I was a football player. And the commonalities that those two things have, really enjoy, for me personally, like I really enjoy the camaraderie, joking and the silliness. It's lovely. It really makes me happy. I love the dudes that I work with every day. And so I want to see this game succeed, which is why I'm part of this movement. I'm part of this because I want to see the game continue. Because quite frankly, I want to continue my relationship with the guys and gals that I've worked with over the years. I want it to continue. I want it to continue to flourish, and I want it to continue to grow. And I think through the game's the only way to do that. I think if we lose the game, then we lose everything, personally. I am a top 30-ish Alliance leader. So we're AQ, I mean top 30 AQ. So yeah, we're map 7x5. We deal with all the BS. We know about, we're currently in our Shell Alliance, which we had to do because we couldn't afford treasury and all that stuff. But I talked to a lot of lower level players and players that aren't, I guess they're just not even hip to the game. Like I kind of shared this the other day with someone in a line chat. I literally got the question from someone that has 7 rank 565 5-stars. What does this mean? Special 3 attack global enhance, whatever the hell the word is. And my mind was blown. Like, yo, like she has 7 5-stars, 565, but doesn't know what the special 3 global is. So I'm very in tuned to what these people are talking about and what they want. I'll be very honest. The main thing they talk about is RNG. They talk about RNG of the crystals. They talk about the RNG of the awakening gems. They talk about the RNG of the 6 stones. That is the number one major talking point of the lower levels. I'll tell you what they don't want. And this is how I feel as a top 30 AQ player, whatever, dog, I don't even know what the hell I am. They don't want to spend money to be good at the game. And I didn't
agree.
either when I first started. I didn't when I first started. I didn't. I was proud. It was one of those, like, I'm free to play. I'm a big puffy chest pelican that didn't want to play this free to play game. And then I fell into the trap. I legit did. I did. I pay money now. And I ask my guys to pay money. Man, they don't want to pay. They don't want to pay to beat Act 5. They don't want to pay to enjoy, not even enjoy, even say enjoy Act 6. Same sentence, it doesn't even make sense. They don't want to pay for stuff.
Yeah.
So that's my number one thing that I want to see changed is a little bit less of pay to get stuff. Let's be more creative on ways to figure out how we can acquire items, whether it's through Glory Store, through units, whether it's, units is kind of paying, but Arena. Let's find other ways to get stuff. Make people happy because people just generally are unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. I actually want to points, and again, I thank you for coming on the stream and talking with us and explaining your position on a lot of this. It's interesting you said that because one of the things I wanted to really address is essentially the in-game economy, and coming up from free to play and now a pay to play player, essentially at the top level of the game, it gets really, really expensive to keep up, right? To maintain, especially where I am in a top 5 alliance. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, and probably my top 5 on the list is to kind of inverse the economy. I feel like Brian Grant feels everything that you need to accomplish in the game should be earnable, right? And that's currently something that's not there right now. And let's say you had to go out and lives, or you had to increase your pots, obviously, so you can get through a piece of content. Every single thing should be earnable in some fashion capacity, and currently that's not been the case. Now, if you went back 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, that wasn't the case. You were actually able to earn almost everything that you needed, right? You had to manage your inventory properly, but you could probably earn it. One of the biggest things that got changed is when they pulled out revives, legends. And so you weren't able to go in there, beat up Winter Soldier 15,000 times, and get yourself everything you needed to complete Act 3 or Act 4 at the time. So that really has to change, because, like I said, it's demoralizing when you're trying to beat content and you're really trying to keep on a budget and you want to enjoy the game, but it keeps kind of pulling you in the direction where, hey, I need to drop a couple of dollars. I don't like that mentality, and I feel that Kabam has shifted from the free-to-play metric, and they have gone with pay-to-play metric. The fact that they're trying to institute the tickets and get you into some sort of a subscription leads me to believe that they're trying to weasel money out of folks on a more regular scheduled basis. It's a common business tactic. If I can't get you per diem, then I'm going to try to get you on a subscription. And Sigil is probably one of the things that started that, and it struck out in my mind that that's probably one of the first couple of things that we want to address. As a council, we want to bring to the table some ideas that basically invert the economy. And again, I repeat, this is not beneficial to the top end because the top end doesn't care. It's really more beneficial to the free-to-play players, because I want to see people like yourself come from top 30 and say, hey, you know what? I've increased my prestige. I want to move up the food chain. And when I'm looking for in top 5, you're now going to have everything I need in order to move you into our alliance. So it's beneficial for us.
Xavier, let me stop you. Xavier,
Yeah.
gotta stop you. It's not even top 30, man. Like, I don't understand how many lower level players, and I don't want to say lower level like in a demeaning way,
Right.
but players that just aren't the level that we are. I'm not even to the level you are, but you don't know what the sigil is and what it means and how it works and why it is what it is and why does it cost what it costs.
Right.
Is it worth it? Is it valuable? So like to top tier players, it's just a necessity. Like you just buy it. Like I buy the sigil. I buy the sigil. Because I freaking need it. I need the units. I need the revives. I need the potions.
Right.
I need all the stuff that comes along with it. I don't even understand what some of this stuff means and how it equates. And they need people that can clarify this for them. Yeah. Quite honestly, can't go to the forums because the forums aren't legitimate. Forums are just like everyone's just yelling at each other and calling each other names.
I agree. Yep.
There's demon fire and there's grounded wisdom and there's there's all these guys just say random stuff, and that's not a good place for them. So what do? They either stay quiet and don't know and don't learn and don't grow, therefore never flourish in the game, or have access to someone like me or like you guys that can pass knowledge down and bring them up and like show them the ways and give them the information they need. So yeah, like buying the sigils and the $5 unit deals and whatever else, like that's not a big deal for the average spender. For whales, certainly not a deal. Me, I'm an ish spender. But for the average person, they want to know, why do I need to buy this deal? And the reality is, you don't know why. No one is telling them why. No one is helping them to understand why they should buy that deal or why they shouldn't.
Yeah. Is it possible? Is it possible in the tiers that you're in, the stuff you see? Is it possible that there's just too much going on right now? Is that possible?
I think so. I think with the incursions, with the side quest, there was a lot of questions about the chronometer and how that should work and what was the best approach. And I can't tell you how many times I typed the exact same freaking message.
Right.
Don't buy it yet. Go in. If you need a specific class AG, you see it, then go buy it, but don't buy it in advance. And so type that message so many times.
So again, real quick, guys, totally off track of what we're discussing here, and let's go back. Discussing a couple things, and then we're getting ready to get out of here. And I'm going to do a quick recap here in a few. But Lori Reed says I have 8 ranked 5 stars, gold 3 alliance. I'm 90% happy with the game. I don't spend because the prices of everything in this game are insane. I accept that I'll never be master or platinum because I'm free to play. And again, that's fair. That's a fair statement. Lori Reed, sounds like us lower players are a bunch of big. That's so far from the case. I know a lot of players that are playing in an alliance, in an alliances that are just relaxing. They've made their situation where they can hang out. They're sitting around. They can relax, play the game at their speed. As Lori Reed said, I'm free to play. I have no desire to go to platinum. I have no desire to go masters. And some players are perfectly fine being there. They're okay playing the game at that speed. Hey, I'm logging in. I'm still part of an AQ. I'm still part of an AW. I'm still getting some rewards, and that's okay. And I think if I was going to ask Lori Reed any question, just this: would it be nice to know that if there was a change in the game that affected your roster, that there was some sort of set rules or definitions that you knew Kabam was going to help you out with, whether it's compensation, rank down tickets, rank up material, or something of that matter, so that all players knowing I can rank a champion up. If it changes over time, I have a chance to get it fixed. Things of that nature. And I think that's something all players can look at and say, yes, that alone would be nice. Would it be nice for us to find a way so that resources are consistent throughout the game, so that all players can be able to rank players up, champions up, and have a full set roster? I think again, all players can agree that's something we would like to see. Can we all look at this and say, look, we want to find a way that the rewards can be at least somewhat static, something that we know we can look forward to, not having to complete some of the hardest content in the game, or spend 3 weeks farming materials to then turn around and enter a game mode, a story mode, and get with this this side of the of rewards, only to get nothing, or to get a champion that's not going to help me in the next set of quest lines, or same thing there. And again, it's not the same rewards for everyone. It's the same ability to have a say in your rewards, to be able to select the T4CC or the T5CC that you need for your roster, because my roster and your roster are totally different. I play champions differently than you do. And again, that's okay. I like to use Void, you like to use Spider-Gwen. That's okay. Doesn't mean that, it shouldn't happen to... No, stagnant rewards wouldn't mean the same rewards. It means that we would know that there is something there that we get to choose, whether it be choosing our T5CC, choosing, a set amount of instead of T5CC, maybe I want to have this. Maybe we can find a way to have a reward selector. Hey, look, there's 2 different bundles here. Do you need T5CC or do you need a bunch of T4CC and more gold? There's ways. There's no one right answer, but there's got to be ways to give players a feel that they have some control over their destiny, some way to have a chance to be in some slight control, so that they have a chance to continue down the continue down the road of completing content. That to me goes a long way. Giving players a chance to have something. So let's get ready to wrap this up, because again, I'm getting ready to jump out of here. But I appreciate, first let me say this, I appreciate everybody taking their time coming in. Whether you agree with anything I say or whether you don't, that's okay. Again, you're allowed to have your set of say. You're allowed to have your opinion. And that's okay. Don't want to agree with me, want to find me as one way or another. Again, I'm okay with that. That's your opinion. You're welcome to it. I promise you won't hurt my feelings for feeling that way about me. I think if anybody takes the moment to talk and get to know, you'll see that what I'm trying to do and what a lot of people are trying to do, not just myself, but a lot of players that are working in this, they're just trying to take their passion for a game that they enjoy to play and try to find a way to make it so that it can stick around for a lot longer. And find a way to keep it so that players want to stay and play. If you've got a lot of players that are looking at this and finding a situation that just doesn't seem fair to the average player or to the players in general, then so be it. So I think that's important. But again, I want to thank everybody for coming in. Again, nothing goes anywhere if people don't ask. If you don't ask questions, I can't help get you answers. Streams like this are important because after this, I can go back and look at the chat. I can analyze what's been asked. I can look at what the questions are. Where does the player base feel like it's being missed? What's going on with one side or the other? And then at that point, we can sit down and say, okay, we need to relook at this. We need to see, how do we address, so-and-so mentioned the bugs. How do we address that? So-and-so mentioned the middle-class player. We had the guy that says he's 90% happy with the game, and how does this all play into effect? Are there some players that may not be affected at all? Absolutely. If you don't do certain things inside the game, you don't have an affinity for pushing, you don't have a desire to push deeper into the game, that's okay too. Everybody's allowed to progress at their own speed, and that's the joys of a game like this. But again, there should be some sort of way to allow players to have some sort of protection from a complete rework of content, rework of champions, so that we can continue playing the game and people don't feel like they have the rug pulled out from underneath them. That's one of the biggest things, I think. So let me go over bulletin points. Somebody asked at the end of this if I would just kind of throw out some bulletin points, and I'll answer one last little bit. And after that, I apologize. I'm just not going to read the chat anymore because I want to get this done and over with. But some bulletin points. What is the boycott about? The boycott's about trying to find a way to bring the game so that players don't feel like Kabam is just changing the rules to which the game's played or how things interact at their own desire. That when something doesn't work to Kabam's favor, that they don't just call it a bug and wipe it underneath the rug and try to not take care of the player base. The goal is to give the players a chance to have some sort of rules, definitions, things that we can look at and say, hey, look, you said this was a bug. This should be getting taken care of. You said that this isn't working the way it's supposed to. You let 3 months of this go. There should be some sort of static compensation or some sort of deal for us to continue to look at and say, congratulations, you're going to get this. We know that this is what's coming to the player base because we didn't take care of the game. If Kabam doesn't take care of the game, that should be relayed back to the consumer. If I go buy something somewhere and it's not right, typically the store is going to take care of me. I go buy a pair of shoes, I take them home and I put them on and the sole falls off. I take it back to the store. They either fix it or they give me a different pair of shoes that work. There's got to be a little bit of consumer protection there, some way for us to be able to look and know that if something happens, that the consumer, us, the players, have a chance to have some sort of compensation or some way of getting something out of our time and money that we spent getting that champion and preparing him for the contest. On the next side of it, we want to look at resources. There's definitely resources inside the game that are just extremely tough to get. They're next to impossible, or maybe it's super slow, or that you find that essentially players can't get these items without spending, or they have a hard time stacking it up. There's no great way to get the things players are needing. That is something that, needs to be looked at. Find a way for players to be able to continue to grow their accounts so they can continue to play the game. Because again, what I want is for players to be able to continue moving forward in the game, and for players to continue to stay in the game, for them to want to play the game. I've lost enough alliance mates and people throughout my alliances over the past couple of years because it's just no longer feasible, or it's no longer fun, or I tried for that. I spent $500 doing this content, and now I got nothing out of it. I'm just done. We want to find a way so that maybe there is a little bit of a static reward system, so that we have a chance as a player base to help control our destiny, so that maybe we can say, oh, you know what, I don't need this, but I could use this. And again, the thing to remember about all of this is that there is no one answer. And I know people keep asking, what's the answer? What do you want Kabam to do? I just want them to be able, we want them to be able to look at this and say, okay, we understand your concerns. Here's some ideas we have. What would make the most sense? And go to a group of players, whether it's CCP, whether it's a council, however this wants to get put together, people that play the game at all different levels. And we want them to be able to communicate with them in a fashion that makes sense, where ideas can be brought to the table from both sides, and we can look at this and find ways to help improve the game for the long term, so that people can continue to stay in the game and they can control their destiny just a little bit, so that if there is that one thing they're looking for that fixes their roster, maybe they stay in the game and they continue to play a little bit longer. Finding a way so that content scales with the player base. There's a lot of things that just need to be talked about. This isn't a boycott with hard demands. This isn't a boycott that's saying if you don't do this, then we're threatening whatever. It's real simple. This is players banding together underneath a common goal of trying to get to Kabam to simply talk to the player base, to have open communications, to say, listen, we want to help make the game better. We want to help find a way so that everybody walks out of this in a positive manner. We don't want Kabam to go out of business. This isn't take away Kabam's freedom. This isn't take things away from Kabam. We want them to be able to actually keep a larger player base. We want them to be able to maintain a bigger player base. More players means more rewards, more people spending. That means that everything inside the game can grow. The more money they make, hey, maybe the more developers we get, maybe the better communications, better servers, things that, so we don't have these issues that we currently have with just random things. These are all things that could just help player quality. Having better servers all the way around can help. Again, there is no one list. If you're looking for a list, you're never going to find it because the list is developing. It's flowing. There's always some things about this going on because it's not a string of demands. It's a talking point. It's people wanting to talk and say, listen, we want to help. We want to find a way so that we can keep things happy inside the game so players stay. People are tired of seeing people walk away. We don't like seeing the knee-jerk reaction from Kabam that causes players to walk away from the game and never come back. We just want that conversation. I don't care who it's with, and I don't care how it happens, but it's eventually all we want is that ability for people to turn around and say, here, how do we help one another? And when that happens, then we can come to a situation where we can say, hey, here's some issues. What ideas do you have? Here's some ideas we have. Which one works for all parties? So if I was going to give you any type of bulletin points, the biggest bulletin point is this. This is a conversation starter. It's not a hard line of demands. It's not an insane list of if you don't do this. It's a, hey, let's figure out how all parties can walk away from this happy. How can everybody walk away from this in a situation where we can all look at this and say the game got a little bit better because Kabam listened to the general public, not just the top alliances, not the free-to-play, not the middle of the road, but looked at the entire player base, tried to see what was wrong with it, where people were basically bottlenecked or anything like that, and find a way for us to be able to negotiate and find a way that players can be happy with rewards, resources, time spent in game, and compensation for whenever things go wrong. We know things are going to go wrong. As long as it's handled fairly and justly and players feel like they're being open with us, I think you see a lot of the problems go away and the player base will be a lot happier. If I have one last thing to say about that is if you look back at the game at the very, very beginning, often when Kabam had issues, was down for maintenance, or had some sort of in-game error, it was not uncommon to log back in and find just some revives. Maybe it was a couple energy refills. Some sort of little, hey, thank you for playing the game. Thank you for understanding we had a mistake. Thanks for just being patient with us. That little thank you goes a long way. And currently, it's a very thankless side for both parts. The players aren't thankful for what Kabam does because at the end of the day, they feel that Kabam has lost touch with the player base. They feel that our matters, our concerns go unnoticed, that we have no voice, that what we ask for, they don't care about. And that's a sad thing. On the other side, Kabam, they look at it and there's no thanks from the players. We're not thanking them. We don't thank them for the game. We don't thank them for the effort that it takes to develop this, to give us new champions. And so it's a two-way street here, and hopefully this leads to a situation where all parties can come together and find a way to at least respect one another, listen to one another, and in return, build this game in a situation where things can move forward in a positive note. I think that's what players want more than anything. So there is my bulletin. Find a way that all players can walk out of this and feel at least something has happened for Kabam to give us a ray of hope. Whether it's increased resources, some sort of static rewards, helping us understand that if there's a bug, it's going to be handled in a timely manner or in a way that all players can understand what's going on. So with that said, I'm getting out of here for the night. Let's roll some credits. I want to say thank you again to everybody that came in. Thank you guys for coming in, chatting. I thank everybody for coming in and just chatting, even in the chat, whether you're in the Discord with me or you're just part of the chat group, chatting and asking questions. Without questions, there's no talking point. We can't help things. Mods tonight, Real Afar over on Twitch, Super Chats, Wolf, and subscriptions. Jay Wayne Games, and Big Boy. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks for hitting the buttons. As always, I'll ask, if you don't mind, hit the thumbs up, hit the share. Tell as many people about the channel as you can. I figure I will continue to try to cover this and explain things as best as I can. And again, I'm human. I promise you I will make mistakes. I promise everything that I say won't be 100% spot on accurate, but I'll do my best as a human being to give you the best insight and information that I can that is actually coming from all sources. This is a simple deal of trying to find a way to help the entire player base, not just one set or the other. I want to cover things that help everybody. And again, you're welcome to any of your own opinions, and you're welcome to come in and express them with me at any point in time. We can learn to respect one another and move forward. So with that being said, I'm getting out of here for the night. You all take care, have fun, and as always, keep on gaming. Adios.